But yeah, we're on both. We're on Twitch. Oh, I'm glad you are reading Black Shirts and Rats. It's really good. What's Parker's permaculture's year? She's like insane. She's like an insane, like, Democrat, liberal weirdo. She's very, very weird. So I'm not entirely sure what her trip is. It's weird too because she's an adult, you know? She's like a grown up. And she acts very, very strange on the internet for money. It's and approval. It's very, very weird. Oh, you found out a new thing that triggers right-wingers. What is that? We're still over here. We're recruiting. We're doing meta streaming. So everybody go over to Twitch because we're going to switch over there pretty fast. I don't have as much time to be on this one today because I got a late start. You followed her for a short period of time? Yeah, she's a weirdo. You're on both? Yes, me too. We're both on both. Ha 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 ha. They flip out when they find out you have 6 mixed stepkids. Oh, yeah, I bet they do. Yeah, TikTok's been really weird. I mean, none of my videos are getting posted. Nothing's right. It's very strange. You guys probably know TikTok's weird. I shot another person today. I haven't seen that. We're going to talk about the news, though. That's what we do over on my Twitch is we talk about the news. So you guys over on the Twitch stream, I hope if you have any news stories handy that you want to. Oh, yeah, close TikTok. The echo's weird. Yeah. Switch to Twitch. Go over to Twitch. How many people are on Twitch right now? Why don't I migrate to... I have an Instagram, but I literally only post, like, fashion pictures there. 59? We have hardly anybody on Twitch right now. Boop, boop, boop. Twitch handles Madeline Pendleton as well, but there's no underscore. So it's just, like, all one word. TikTok's bad right now. It's real weird. It's very, very weird. I actually downloaded an app that takes all of your social media posts and automatically uploads them to YouTube Shorts. So I'm doing that with my entire backlog catalog from TikTok's getting automatically uploaded to YouTube Shorts as well. And my new posts are supposed to also. And I'm trying to get my Twitch videos on demand over to YouTube also, which could be good. So I'm not entirely sure. Why do I speak so much about North Korea? I speak about every place. People are just really interested in North Korea, so they ask a lot of more questions about it. But the reason why it's important to debunk misinformation about socialist projects is they want you to think socialism is bad, communism is scary, communism doesn't work, because, oh my God, that one's so cute. I've never seen that before. Because if you think that, then you think you have no other options. Oh my gosh, thick almond milk. Yay, first time chat. Thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. So that's why it's important to debunk misinformation about communism and socialism, because they use that. They make out scary communism boogeymans like that. So you think that no matter how bad it gets under capitalism, you're stuck with it because it's the best you got. And that's not true. They're lying to you about the communist places. And the only thing bad about the communist places is not the only thing. They're a normal place. Some things are bad, I'm sure. But the bad things about the communist places are what capitalism's doing to them, just like what capitalism's doing to you here at home. Venezuela didn't fall. The USSR didn't fall. Neither of those places failed. The United States viciously attacked them. So, we're at 84. Okay, good. We're going to stay on here until we get enough people over there. So, but like, okay, Isabella Rose, like, maybe socialism can work, but North Korea is still evil. Who told you North Korea was evil? The capitalists did. And this is the thing most Americans don't understand. And this is really over here too, both places. The focus of what I like to talk about a lot is propaganda and how propaganda works. That's why when we go on Twitch and we look at the news and we see how things are being reported and we talk about the actual history of these things, you see that we are the most propagandized people on the planet. There's so much propaganda that goes into everything that we consume. And most Americans don't know. Like, you as an average American probably don't know everything you think you know about North Korea comes from Western-backed propaganda. You probably think you're reading individual people's stories, survivor accounts, all these different NGOs and human rights watch groups. It's probably very, very alarming if you trace back the funding on all of these and find that this all actually comes from one place, and it's the United States government. And I think that's important for you to know. I think it's important to know because if you're an American, that's where your tax dollars go. But also because it's affecting how you view the world, and it's making you unable to create like good political decisions because you don't know what's going on, right? I don't know what Skylight Social is. I've never heard of that. What's Skylight Social? You've never actually seen a North Korean speak about their country. So, and then when we ask people to, we're like, watch Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang. And the reason you get recommended that a lot, is that Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang is people from North Korea who no longer live in North Korea talking about their experiences, and also talking about why so many of their friends felt pressured to lie and make up stories. And it's very illuminating. 110. Okay, good. We're on 110. Okay, so jump on over to Twitch. You can ask questions on Twitch. It's really, really chill. Richard Harden, unfortunately, you are the one that is lost in the sauce on this, and I have an entire resource document for you to learn, and we could talk about it on Twitch if you come over to Twitch. We can talk about any of these things, and I can show you guys. You know, you just checked and proofread so-called evidence from North Korea debunking your bio. Okay, what is it? What did you see? I don't like this planet. What did you see? Because that's not my evidence. Those are the leading foremost experts on Korean history and sociology. Some articles from the BBC. Which ones? I have maybe one article from the BBC. And it's literally just saying that South Korea raised their pay for defectors to $860,000. That's like the only one. And maybe a story about how North Korea leaves. No, I didn't do a full live. No, I didn't. You're right. You didn't lie. So like what one? What? And Carmi Lee, we're not allowed to. Americans aren't allowed to enter on an American passport, not because of North Korea, but because of the United States government. We don't allow that. Yeah, videos won't load for me. Ginger Pash Tranda, yeah. Our videos on TikTok aren't loading. Mine aren't playing. I'm not seeing things. Things are showing up like hours after I posted them. It's pretty wild. But where'd that person go? Were they going to say what? They don't say anything. That's the thing. Richard Harden. Research documents all biased crap. Literally, and like the funny thing is that biased crap. There's a former, not even a former, there's at the time that he wrote it, he was a history professor at the London School of Economics, has a book on that list. The former chair of the history department at the University of Chicago has 2 books on that list. A professor of Korean history at Rutgers University, who is also of Korean descent, is on that list. Gui-sik Kwon, who does work on the genocide backed by the United States on Jeju Island, who lives on Jeju Island, is from Korea. She is on that list. So to look at that and say, well, this is all biased crap. It's like, North Koreans are apparently biased crap. Professionals researching this subject are biased crap. American history professors are biased crap. European history professors are biased crap. So what does that mean? What's not biased crap to you? If the world's foremost experts on Korean history are biased crap to you, if people studying the genocide of their own people are biased crap to you, if people from North Korea who are talking to you about their experiences and how many of their friends were pressured to lie and tell sensational stories is biased crap to you, but information you hear coming out of South Korea, a place where it is illegal to say anything good about North Korea, is not biased crap to you. How are you determining this? Is it not just things that support your worldview? Sorry, double streaming. Ah! Oh. Also, my TikTok to YouTube thing stopped working. That's pretty interesting for the automatic updates. Seeing that person never said, have you ever actually spoken to a North Korean? Yeah, there's North Koreans on that list talking to you about it. And again, I asked you, what did you think was not true? What was biased? What was found untrue? Nobody can answer. Nobody answers that. Nobody answers that, right? They're just like, it's fake. And then they don't say anything, right? And that's concerning. That should be concerning to you guys. Okay, sorry, I'm doing something else really fast. We're almost there. How many people are in here now on Twitch? What do we got? 144 is pretty good. Okay, 144 is pretty good. I like it. All right. So we can get into it. So come join us over on Twitch. You can make a point. Do we like South Korea? South Korea is a neo-colony of the United States. They're a vassal state of us. Their military can't even... Our military is in charge of their military. There are a lot of losers in the chat. That's okay, though. I know. I'm sorry, Karl Marx, little boo-boo. They won't let it go. They're, like, obsessed. If everyone in the room is wrong or hates you, it's not the room that's the problem. Sometimes it is. Smogless Genie, if you walk into a KKK rally, is everyone there right and you're wrong? Right? Right? The hypocrisy, this is the thing, it's like, these people don't even know what they're talking about. Yeah, somebody in my Twitch stream says, South Korea has one of the highest suicide rates on the planet. Right? We could talk about the Amnesty International report today. If you guys want, we could do a news story. We could do domestic and a foreign policy thing, and the domestic could be the Amnesty International. Do we want to do that? Are you guys interested in that? I think that could be good. Please just be careful on how you're saying. Saying what? You guys don't even know what you're talking about. That's what's weird. Though. It's like you don't even say anything. This is what's weird, is these people, like, don't know what they're even saying. Oh, scroll up. Yeah, okay. Yeah, they are perpetuating racism. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, they're perpetuating racism. That's true. Okay. So, we've got South Korea's 5 corporations in a trench coat. It seriously is. It's what happens with imperialism. South Korea is an excellent example of American imperialism. You grabbed a clip from Hassan's stream yesterday. Are links allowed here? I think they are. Give it a try. Let's see how it happens. It's my ego when it's me telling you to read world-renowned historians on these subjects. Let's take a look. Okay, what is this from? Oh, it's about Hank Green, and I'm in here? Oh my god, this is crazy. Okay. Thank you, the laziest potato. Okay, so, all right. Go join us on Twitch. We're over on Twitch. I'm hanging up here, and you can come yell at me about North Korea over on Twitch if you want to. Come on over there. We'll show you evidence. We'll go through it all together. Good morning, Virgo. We're going to Twitch now, everybody. Okay. And you come yell about it over there. We'll go through evidence together. We'll do the whole 9 yards. All right. Okay, bye. Okay. Hi. Sorry, it's just us now. The weirdos are gone. I got, like, since the switchover on TikTok, I got, like, so many Republicans on my page. It's so weird. An 11-year-old video of my closet on YouTube. I'm uploading a bunch of weird stuff. Okay. So, what is this video from Hassan? I'm going to watch it. I'm going to turn on sound. So I'm going to turn my mic off. Hold on.
What do you think about Madeline Pendleton? I'm glad that there's another person out there that's like a magnet for everyone that has animosity towards communism. Like, it sucks that she gets to eat it all day, every day, but at least it's like, wait, what is this? Oh my God.
I'm muted. Yeah, sorry. Okay, that's nice. First time chat. Thank you, Darcy. Muted. Got it. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's nice. I like that. Mic on. It's on. All right. So, we have liberated Europe from fascism, but they will never forgive us for it. So true, Car. Yep. You lived near the Iranian embassy in London. You walked past it this weekend. It was full of protesters all carrying MAGA, Trump, USA, and Israel flags. Yeah, it's wild. And in Europe, they have a lot of shame, right? If you guys are Europeans, you probably know what I'm talking about. Like, Holocaust shame that manifests as, like, blind Zionism. Like, they're going to atone for their sins for the Holocaust by supporting Israel no matter what, which is a very interesting part of it as well. Yeah. So good morning, comrades in the chat. Everybody coming in. We've got some people here. We are going to, if you're new here, this is your first time here, what we do is we take a look at things happening in the news, and then we read through them and we dissect them from a Marxist perspective. So we talk about historical things that might be of note or relevant, and we go through sources together. So that's what we do. Comrade, welcome. First time chats. Hello. And we have both of our mods are in the chat today. So we've got Car, who's Child of the Reach, and Virgo, both in the chat. Thank you both for being here this morning, always. And Today, we're going to try to do a domestic and a foreign policy story. And the domestic story we're going to be looking at is something that was held over from last week that was a request. And it is an Amnesty International report about Alcatraz Island. Or Alligator Alcatraz. Sorry, that's what it's called. So I have not read this yet. So we're going to read it together and we are going to talk about it. So we are going to have to figure out a poll to do for foreign policy related things. But let's try to get through this one first, maybe. And then we'll jump over to a foreign policy thing, if that's okay. If you're still around by then. And if you have to go, I totally understand. You are getting married this weekend, which is very exciting. All right. So you would say Spain doesn't care a lot about Israel. There's a lot to say about Spain, but I can't because Latin America will crucify me, rightfully so. It's wedding week for Virgo also, which is really exciting. Your younger cousin got suspended from school in 2022 for saying the Ukraine war is in black and white. That is interesting to know. Yeah. Spain is your up. I get it. I can't even be mad at you for it. I understand. I'm sorry to the Latin Americans in the chat for occasionally saying nice things about Spain. I apologize in advance. But yeah, we're really excited for Virgo's wedding. That's exciting. Just got into an argument with your roommate saying cops are not like ICE. This is yeah. Welcome to Sanity Corner of the internet. I've been dealing with it on my TikTok because the TikTok algorithm shift on the 22nd. Everything's been so screwy on my page. It's showing like my North Korea content to Republicans. My videos are getting like 0 views. Nobody can share them. My bulletin board only exists half the time apparently now. I just don't even know. Your fiance is Filipino and cannot be nice to Spain too loud. That is true. We'll keep it down. Spain's colonized everybody. It's pretty alarming. They've colonized a lot. What's more alarming to me is how Portugal managed to colonize so much. It's so small, and yet it's done so much damage as well. It's really astounding. These European countries had nothing if not the audacity, right? They'd be this big, like, I'm going to go take up this much of the world now. Bye. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. So weird, Raccoon Child, about the bulletin board. I don't know what's going on. So TikTok's in a weird breakdown mode. Okay, wait. Oh, I saw Pigeon Mother 3. You asked this over on TikTok and I got distracted. How the Iranian people can organically revolt on their own with no access to weapons. I mean, I honestly don't know. I'm not an Iranian person. I think that you should ask Marxists from Iran. I'm sure they have perspectives, but I can tell you that none of their perspectives mean the USA and Israel are going to help. I can assure you that. And this is the thing about being a Marxist, or Marxist-Leninist in particular, is that we can pretty much guess within a range what other Marxist-Leninists are going to say anywhere else in the world about what's going on, because we're using the same analytical lens. And I can promise you there's not a single Marxist-Leninist who is going to tell you Israel and the United States being in Iran is a good thing anywhere in the world. Not a single Marxist-Leninist anywhere in the world would tell you that, because that is not going to be a good thing. That is textbook imperialism. That is not a people's revolution. That is not going to help people anywhere do anything, right? So I can tell you that confidently. So it's not my job to organize the people of Iran into a hypothetical revolution, thankfully, because I don't think I'd be good at that job, right? But yeah, my job as an American is to tell you the United States is not going to help in any capacity. Avril LaCringe, former Spain colony, you kicked their asses. I'm happy for you. This is my main account. Yes, that is. We're new to Twitch, so it's pretty low. Poll to return Madeline to 2022 donor. Wasn't that old video wild? I'm like, I've been talking about this. Okay, so today Trotskyists are printing papers right now to simp for Iranian occupation, probably. Highlighted message, become a pilot, fly near North Korea, fake plane emergency, beg to land. Please, North Korea, let us in. Oh. All right. We got a Discord up here that's pinned to the top of the chat from Virgo. We are going to get into it. So I've got the screen share pulled up. So today what we are looking at is a request from a viewer who wanted to take a look at this Amnesty International report, which is, let's see if we can is there a better way to view this? We're going to download it into my downloads, along with pictures of a broken cabinet that I bought that I'm trying to get a refund on. If you saw that, I'm like, look at this dent. It came dented. Give requests, just type them in here, Car. Somebody was, and then just be adamant. Just be like, remember this. Talk about this. I'm still here talking about it. And then we will. So, this report is torture and enforced disappearances in the Sunshine State, human rights violations at Alligator, Alcatraz, and Chrome in Florida. Amnesty International is a movement of 10 million people which mobilizes the humanity in everyone and campaigns for change so we can all enjoy our human rights. That's not necessarily true. Amnesty, like many of these human rights NGOs, is often used as a tool of empire. They often are caught citing propaganda and Western-backed sources. So this is going to be very interesting to see them report on the West. Now, something I want to say before we get into this is a lot of people ask what's the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And we talk about how they have the same foreign policy objectives and goals. One of the main ways they differ, though, is in their use of the administrative state. So what we've seen very obviously with the Trump administration is that he's interested in consolidating power at a federal level under the executive branch. And in that pursuit, he's defunded a lot of different organizations that the Democrats usually enjoy for their foreign policy objectives. So, when DOGE came in, for example, and cut funding to places like USAID, the National Endowment for Democracy, the U.S. Agency for Global Media, these are all places that leftists hate. We hate those. We hate all of those agencies, right? Those are tools of regime change, destabilization, and propaganda around the world. Donald Trump didn't cut funding to those things because he also hates regime change and propaganda and destabilization efforts around the world. He loves those things. He just wants him to be able to do it more directly from the White House. So that's a key difference between them. So places like Amnesty International, they are part of this administrative state apparatus of propaganda used to advance United States hegemony around the globe, but from a very liberal perspective. It's a very Democrat perspective using these agencies. So Donald Trump hates them. Democrats love them. They're trying to do the same thing. So the perspective I think we should have going into this is that what we're probably going to be reading is a Democrat-friendly perspective on the United States. It's probably not going to be something as we get into this that critiques capitalism, that calls out the Democrats, probably is my guess, for backing ICE, for Joe Biden, for raising ICE budgets to the highest they'd ever been just before Donald Trump took office again. We're probably not going to see a lot of that coming from them. It's not even probably going to be like the ACLU, who was very, very good about even holding Obama accountable during the mass deportation era under Obama. The ACLU was regularly publishing things about the mistreatment of immigrants who were being detained, who weren't getting due process, who were being deported in very cruel ways under Obama. I'm sure we're probably not going to see that from Amnesty International. So I'm guessing this is going to be a very liberal Democrat critique of the Trump administration and probably not a critique of capitalism on the whole, if I had to guess. So that's what we're looking at here, and we're going to get into it. So they say here they're a movement of 10 million people mobilizing the humanity and everyone in campaigns for change so we can all enjoy our human rights. Again, we know that's not true. They cite propaganda networks a lot. Our vision is of a world where those in power keep their promises, respect international law, and are held to account. So this also reminds me when we were talking about kind of the Carney speech and Europe and how they were like, this isn't the spirit of international law. It's a very Democrat approach. It's like that tweet that's like, politics right now is the Democrats going, dogs aren't allowed to play basketball while a dog just dunks on them over and over and over again. That's kind of what this vibe feels like to me too. So they say we are independent of any government, political ideology, economic interest, or religion. Again, we know that's not true because they repeat U.S. Propaganda talking points, right, in a lot of their reports, but that's okay. And not just talking points, they directly will cite U.S. government-funded resources. Like they've cited Radio Free Asia directly, which is part of the USAGM, which is a congressionally funded and appointed propaganda network. We believe that acting in solidarity and compassion with people everywhere can change our societies for the better. Okay. So, full disclosure, I did once yell, no CIA, at Amnesty International canvassers in Highland Park in front of Kitchen Mouse, if that means anything to you if you're from LA. So I have a little bit of a poor impulse control when it comes to disliking Amnesty International. So I have an anti-Amnesty International bias. So before we get into it, you need to be aware of my bias there. Okay. Now, This is a 61-page document, so we're obviously not going to be able to do the whole thing, so we're just going to kind of read through it briefly together. Executive summary. We have a quote here that says, we're locked up in 1,000 square foot cages. There are 32 people in each cage. So for me, I always like to try to do a visualization for my life. My house is 1,000 square feet. That would be like having 32 people in my house. You know, I have me and my partner and a cat and a dog in my house, and the space is adequate. I cannot imagine adding 30 more people to my house. That's like a party, right? Stuck in your house, but they're not having fun. So there are also 8 cages inside of the tent, they say. So this is, you know, pretty packed. The lights are like stadium lights. They're always on. They're never turned off or even dimmed. It's very cold. The air conditioning is very strong, and there are a lot of mosquitoes. Okay, so this is what's going on. This report presents Amnesty International's findings from a research trip to southern Florida in September 2025 to document the human rights impacts of federal and state migration and asylum policies on mass detention and deportation, access to due process, and detention conditions since President Trump took office on January 20th, 2025. In particular, it focuses on detention centers at the Chrome North Service Processing Center and Everglades Detention Facility, also known as Alligator Alcatraz. Amnesty International visited Chrome on September 25th, 2025. The organization also requested access to Alligator Alcatraz, receiving no response from Florida authorities, and to the Glades County Detention Center, which ICE denied. Amnesty International's research demonstrates that the state of Florida's anti-migrant and anti-asylum policies, combined with sharp escalation in immigration enforcement actions, are instilling widespread fear in migrant, asylum seeker, and mixed-status communities. The increasing entanglement of state and local authorities in federal immigration and enforcement through 287G agreements has led to an expansion of the system of mass arbitrary detention of asylum seekers and migrants, in violation of the United States international human rights obligations. Under these policies and agreements, the detention of asylum seekers and migrants is the norm, not the exception. Okay, yes. So, they were not able then to access Alligator Alcatraz directly. They were only able to access Chrome directly, based on what I'm reading here. I've actually seen, as Bell says, I've seen a lot of Marxists in Barcelona, and I've been to a few places throughout Spain, and the only places I really saw a large Marxist population was in Bilbao and Barcelona. But I know they must exist everywhere, but they're like very, very present out there. So, and again, I am sorry that I've been to Spain so much. All right. We have here, in 2025, the facility at Chrome faced heightened scrutiny after reports of severe overcrowding and several deaths. Amnesty International documented delays in intake procedures, overcrowding in temporary processing areas, inadequate and inaccessible medical care, alarming disciplinary practices, including the use of prolonged solitary confinement, and challenges in access to legal representation and due process at Chrome. So this goes along with what everybody's kind of been saying. We've seen a lot of reports come out that are all kind of echoing this same thing, and people who've been in these centers, and also lawyers who have tried to get access to these centers. So this is obviously just a drawing of some kind. They say it's a giant tent filled with these cages. We've also seen some pictures from inside, and there's people sleeping on concrete floors. I mean, their rendering has like bunk bed situations, it looks like, but I've seen, you know, pictures of cages basically with people in them sleeping on floors. Yeah, Granada was cool too. It was very, very interesting. Amnesty International considers detention conditions at both facilities amount to a cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment. The use of prolonged solitary confinement at Chrome and the use of the box at Alligator Alcatraz amount to torture and other ill treatment. This sounds correct. Alligator Alcatraz has already absorbed more than $360 million in state-issued contracts and is projected to require approximately $450 million annually to operate once it is fully functional. It's so much money. And this is the thing. We know Republicans are not actually the party of fiscal austerity. We know that, right? For all of their talk about austerity politics, for all of Milton Friedman destroying Latin America with austerity politics, for all of the IMF demanding austerity politics out of the rest of the world, right? As like a sacrifice to the bloodthirsty gods of capitalism. We don't do austerity politics here at home. We are actually very, very free flowing with our spending. We spend so much money, but it's mostly on law enforcement and military. And we have exorbitant expenses coming out of our country going to military and law enforcement of a variety of different capacities, including ICE, very obviously. So Republicans do like spending money. They love going into debt. They love building up the deficit. And we see that. They also contribute to the deficit every single year. The only, actually, politician in my lifetime that has tackled the deficit in any meaningful way was Bill Clinton. That guy was very, very conservative. He was a Democrat, though. But also, him tackling the deficit was actually really bad for the economy anyway. So, the Republicans are total hypocrites about this. They're spending $450 million a year to operate a facility to arrest people's grandparents. Like, it's such a waste of money, obviously. The cruelty is the point, though. And again, I want to talk about this from the perspective of fascism. I know we've been reading a lot of documents lately about fascism, what it is, how it grows, what it means. The reason why all of this is necessary is that capitalism is bad for everyday average workers, everyday average people, right? Fascism is worse for everyday average workers. And so you have to do a hell of a propaganda campaign, a hell of a psyop campaign to get average everyday people in support of this, at least to the extent that they're not rising up against it. And the way that fascism does that is an appeal to tradition and the idea of the nation being the most important thing. What's good for the country is good for all of us. And that goes along with Mussolini's economic policy of corporatism. We must give everything we can to these corporations because when they profit, the state profits, and that's good. But also the social policies that advance fascism, right? They need to basically appeal to everyday people and get them all riled up on the idea of supporting the country. And to do that, they have to vilify somebody. They need an outsider. So what makes you feel rallied around supporting a country when another country is at odds with it? But we don't really have other countries seriously threatening our sovereignty in any capacity. So that's when we turn it inward, and suddenly the enemy is the immigrant, right? That's the enemy now. They're the outsider that doesn't belong. So we have our little nation that we need to protect and uphold at all costs. And the enemy, the outsider, who's not a part of our nation, that's the immigrant. So this $450 million a year that we're spending on this weird, bizarre show that actually does nothing for public safety, we know that, certainly. It actually contributes more to a lack of safety. There was one report that came out that I think that ICE agents were responsible for like 36% of murders in Minneapolis so far this year. I'm going to look it up actually to confirm that. I'm not sure if I remember the number right, so we'll see. Okay, here we go. This is the quote. The quote is actually 2/3. It's actually higher. I'm going to show you guys in a second. Okay. So this is from Amy Klobuchar, who is the senator from Minnesota. And Klobuchar said about 2/3 of the recorded homicides in Minneapolis right now were committed by federal agents. So we know that these things aren't making people safer. They're actually killing people, right? We've released madmen on the streets with guns, and they're killing people. And that's nothing new. Our police are madmen on the streets with guns as well. Our military are madmen very often deployed on our streets with guns as well, right? So nothing new, but more of the same. And more of the same is that these law enforcement officers, they don't actually contribute to public safety. So these $450 million a year, what is it being spent for if not public safety? It's being spent to pacify the Americans, to convince the Americans that they must rally together under their identity of Americanness, right? And do whatever it takes for America to succeed. And that's to make them complicit in their own exploitation at the end of the day. That is to get them in the mindset where they are willing to sacrifice personal freedoms in order to see America succeed. And to do that, this is the enemy that we've landed on. So yeah, my copy and paste for my links doesn't work very well. But I can make a tiny URL and type it in for this. And I'll show you guys what we're looking at right now. So JV89K586. So this is a document we're looking at right now. So that's why they have to do this. And that's important for us to keep in mind. Okay, Virgo. In 2020, when Klobuchar dropped out of the presidential race, she announced her support for Biden while holding a piece of metal pipe. But to this day, even saying Amy Klobuchar wielding a pipe in the library is a clue joke for years. It's very weird. She's very weird. And, the thing about Democrats that's so infuriating is that they don't actually care about ICE violence. Like, we all remember AOC crying at the border, right? There are kids in cages at the border, and she does her little photo op, and she cries. This bitch hasn't been doing anything consequential to stand up against ICE. She didn't say shit when Biden was president, right? Pretty sure DHS is responsible for half of the murders in Northridge, Los Angeles. Yeah, because of the guy who was, okay, so I don't live in the valley where that happened. That happened in the valley. But I live nearby. I live in Atwater Village. It's close to Burbank. Burbank's the closest part of the valley to us. At midnight on New Year's Eve, I heard guns fired in my neighborhood. People shoot guns at the sky. That's something they do in some neighborhoods. They do that in my neighborhood. And this man did this, and an off-duty ICE agent in the valley in LA shot him at like 12:01 a.m., right? This year. And I don't know if you guys know about that or if we just know about that in LA. Literally, off-duty ICE agent just shot him. And that was in Northridge. So that's what Honeybee Darva First Time Chat is talking about here. You live in Northridge? Yeah. Why do people shoot guns in the sky? I don't know. I grew up firing guns. I've never understood that one. We didn't shoot guns in the sky ever. I could see it being fun if you were drunk and reckless, but I don't know. It just happens. But people in my neighborhood do it. They do it. I actually, full disclosure, I fell asleep accidentally too early because I stay home because we have pets, you know. Anytime there's fireworks, I try to stay home with the pets. But I woke up because I drifted off to the gunshots in the sky, not even fireworks, gunshots. I've always wondered about the bullets coming down. I'm sure it's not safe or good, but it is a thing people do. So the fact that this man went outside at 12:01 a.m. and shot a gun in the sky, that's normal culturally where we live. It's not everyone does it, but it's certainly not uncommon or unheard of. That is a thing I heard multiple people do at 12:01 a.m. An off-duty ICE agent who lived in his apartment building came out and just shot him. Yeah, so absolutely wild. First time chat, if no, why not just set off fireworks or firecrackers? They do that too. They do both. But I don't know. It's like it's a thing. I don't know. You had a kid where you live, Simmer, Jamie, get hit by a volley bullet. Yeah, again, I imagine it's not safe, but it's not like you need to assassinate the person doing this immediately for public safety. Like, it's not like that. You know, so it's just crazy that even happened. That man did not deserve to die. You heard about that and you're not in Cali. People have shot guns in the air on New Year's Eve everywhere you live, and you've lived all over the USA. Okay, see, so I've only been in California, but they do everywhere I've lived except for San Francisco. They've done that. So Fresno, they did that. Santa Cruz, they did that. LA, they did that. San Francisco, they didn't. But you know, you're LA too. Yeah. See, it's a thing. It's not a thing you shoot your neighbor over. You don't shoot your neighbor for doing that. That is absolutely crazy. Like, that's not what you do. Yeah. So Virgo, where you're like in Santa Rosa, is that right? Yeah, even if it's not a cultural norm, a mad scene, murder is not justified in that situation. Yeah, you're not a threat. Even if that's not normal where you live. Yeah. Very, very interesting. All right, so this $450 million, again, that's why they're doing it. It's clearly not about public safety. These guys are out here on the streets murdering people. It is literally to create these psychological conditions necessary to uphold fascism, which is to reiterate the idea that you as an American are under attack, and thank God the fascist strong government state is here to protect you. And that's really what this is all contributing to. That's important. So, funds for its construction and operation have been taken from the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Oh my God. Yeah, because Florida doesn't have any natural disasters or emergencies we need to plan for. They certainly don't get hit with hurricanes every single year. Okay, so they're stealing money from an emergency management fund. Great. Under the governor's discretion, under emergency procurement powers usually reserved for natural disasters. Okay, I saw that one coming. Being a Marxist gives you the power of prediction. Right, okay. So this is exactly, they're taking, like, what's going to happen when there's the next hurricane in Florida and they don't have funds? Because they gave $450 million to a stupid fucking prison to imprison people's, like, aunts and uncles who have done nothing wrong. This is just wild. Absolutely ridiculous. So Amnesty International has documented that the government of Florida cut resources from essential social and emergency management programs while also allocating discretionary funds from FDEM to finance the construction and operation of Alligator Alcatraz. Now, the other thing I think that's important to talk about is Florida, just because we're seeing Donald Trump really talk about foreign policy in a major way. Like, in the saddest way possible, American imperialism is back, comma, baby. You know what I mean? So the United States has this long track record of absolutely brutalizing every other country on the planet, very obviously. But the Democrats do it in this very hush-hush way. Most people don't know, for example, that Barack Obama bombed 7 countries in 1 year. And there were even people on the internet being like, Donald Trump bombed 7 countries in 1 year. This has never been done before. And all these people had to be like, Barack Obama literally did that. So it's not that imperialism ever went anywhere, but we're doing it in this very out in the open, flagrant way that I would say we probably haven't done since the 60s. Maybe we did a little bit in the 80s in Latin America, but it's just so flagrant. Very random, but Madeline, do you have a gun, Circito? So at various points in my life, I have lived in households with guns. I do not currently live in a household with a gun. And one of the main reasons is that my ex, who passed away, as you all know, was a gun-related suicide. So I had always kind of, been under the impression that gun ownership was a neutral for me, right? I'm not a person who struggles with depression, though. So now living with other people, that's always in the back of my head that if somebody, like, I trust myself to have a gun in my household because I fortunately don't struggle with depression. I don't see that ever being a temptation. But living with other people, I now view that as more of a responsibility to be better safe than sorry. Because if you've experienced that, certain people who have depression might be more prone to suicide if a gun is present in the house because it is so immediate and so fast and takes not very much preparation work. So I kind of had to make the decision that if I was going to live with other people, that I would have to rethink my relationship with gun ownership, if that makes sense. And there are other weapons, that is for sure, but there is a certain type of personality for whom if they have access to a gun specifically, they are more likely to commit suicide. And it is very narrow. It's a very narrow type of person for whom that is true. And that happened to be the person I lived with. But I do think people should be armed, and I would like to own a gun. So that is something I will probably revisit soon. Right. But better to not have it around. And, realistically, I probably have some emotional shit I'm working through with that, too, right? We had 2 guns in the household, and, it's very, it's something that even when I go to a firing range, because I do go to firing ranges, but I rent a gun when I go. And also, I don't know if you guys know this, I'm very small. Like, I'm a child-sized person, so there's only certain guns that I can realistically, comfortably, and safely fire because the kickback is so extreme and my arms are very weak. So I have to fire very specific guns. And one of the reasons I would purchase a gun is because at the firing range also, they often don't have guns that are the right ones for me to rent. Like, there's some I can kind of fake it with, but they're not ideal. So that's kind of it. I know the thumbs up is the worst timing. I'm like, my partner died. And it's like, yay. And then it doesn't work like ever other times. Yeah. But I'm not opposed to gun ownership. I grew up firing guns. I have no problem with it. I go to the shooting range still. I have up in my office, there's a target. It's kind of funny because we all just went overboard on the target and it's like completely like shot everywhere. And it's funny and it's hanging up on my walls. So, yeah, I would say if you were a person who struggled with depression, err on the side maybe of not owning a firearm. Not everybody might say that, though. I have a very unique experience with that fortunately a lot of people don't have. So, why am I not opposed to owning guns? I believe that if the government is armed, the proletariat should be armed. I believe that. And that is a belief I adopted as a teenager. I grew up firing guns, full disclosure. But when I read Angela Davis's autobiography, that's really when I was like, people need weapons. Because the KKK basically were the police in the town Angela Davis grew up in, and they would come, hydrate. I don't even have water. I have to go get water. So just a second on the hydrates. I'm going to go grab a thing of water, but I'll finish my sentence and I'll go. But they basically had to stand guard and protect their families with guns in the night because the police at nighttime would dress up as the KKK, go moonlight, and go light their houses on fire. And the only thing that stopped them from lighting their houses on fire was them standing out on the front porch with a rifle. So you read that perspective and you're like, marginalized people, if the government has guns, they need to be on equal footing. It's the same reason North Korea needs a nuke, right? It's the same reason you never get rid of your nukes. You got to balance the playing field, unfortunately. Yes, Eulythicus. I am a communist. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to put up the fork screensaver. I'm going to go grab some water so I can fulfill all the hydrates. Thank you, everybody. And then we're going to get back into this. Okay, back with water. How many hydrates did I miss? I'm going to count them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 8, 9, 9, 9. You got 2 more. Oh, greetings from a comrade in Germany. Hello, vegan nugget connoisseur. Vegan comrade. I like it. Okay, we're stretching. Okay. So, 9. Sounding like H-Man with all those 9s. Oh, it's so funny. Slow drink of water. Okay. All right, so back onto this. They're stealing money from natural disaster funds in Florida, a place that frequently experiences natural disasters, and putting money into building a pointless prison to arrest little old ladies and children. Also, they can convince you that they have to take away your rights because you as an American are under attack. That's what's going on. Switching the screen, thank you. So let's get back into this. Amnesty International has also documented the routine and prolonged use of shackles on individuals. Can you guys see this? Yeah, there you go. That's better. On individuals detained for immigration purposes, both at detention facilities and during transfer between facilities, which constitutes cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, and may amount to torture or other ill treatment. Taking into consideration Amnesty International's independent findings, the opinions of migrants, asylum seekers, and organizations, and the United States human rights obligations under international law, at the end of this report, Amnesty International makes a series of recommendations to the governments of the state of Florida and the United States. The organization calls on both governments to address systemic human rights violations in immigration detention facilities. The organization further calls on the government of Florida to close Alligator, Alcatraz, to prohibit the use of any state-run immigration detention facility, to end the misuse of emergency powers, halt all no-bid procurement, and redirect detention funding towards essential healthcare, housing, and disaster relief programs. This is kind of a funny one. Redirect detention funding towards essential healthcare, housing, and disaster relief programs. I don't know that the United States has ever significantly funded healthcare or housing programs. Like, we do it, but like the idea that all this is the biggest ask, honestly. They're like, oh, we here at Amnesty International think you should stop funding these weird concentration camps for brown people, and completely build a social safety net from scratch. Like, the way this is so casually worded, I'm like, does Amnesty International think we're already funding healthcare and housing programs? Like, what? Very, very interesting. Cercito, Chad, I got diagnosed with oily skin. How long until the United States comes to bring democracy to my face? They're already there. Knock, knock, babe. Who's there? Honey, I shrunk the U.S. Army. They are on your face. Okay, a Mad Scene says, one thing I found interesting about the article is they spoke about how it's legally allowed because they were the first state-run immigration detention centers. The regulatory rules don't apply because they are for federal detention centers. It just shows how the law is meaningless and can also be used to allow any mistreatment. Just like how the detention of Japanese people, that was done legally. And that is true. Where I'm from in Fresno, where you guys are from, you probably, if you're from the United States, had a Japanese internment camp in the United States during World War II. You know, Japan was our political enemy. They were allied with Nazi Germany. And a lot of people want to talk about, oh, well, under Stalin, the USSR relocated whole areas, whole towns that had collaborated with Hitler. Nobody talks about the fact that in the United States, we just found any Japanese person, regardless of where they were, and we sent them to a concentration camp because they were Japanese. So, you know, we definitely held the communist countries to standards, right, that we didn't hold ourselves to. So the USSR would look at areas where it's like this whole town, like 50% of the people here collaborated with the Nazis. We know that. And then they would do things that are classified as collective punishment and probably aren't ideal, right? But I can't think of a better solution, and they would just disperse the town. They'd be like, you all, it's like when your teacher gets mad at you for sitting next to your best friend in class because you're goofing off too much, and then they separate you. That's what they did. They went in, the USSR went in and was like, okay, you're all separated now because together, apparently, you become Nazis, so we don't know what to do with that. In the United States, we just took anybody Japanese, and we were like, you go to a concentration camp because you're the enemy now, which is absolutely wild. So in Fresno, where I'm from, they literally did this at the Fresno Fairgrounds. So if you've been to the Fresno Fairgrounds, that used to be a detention center, an internment camp for Japanese people in the United States. Not even Japanese. We just looked at any Asian person and said, good enough. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the name of the USSR policy, it was... I'm not sure what the actual policy was. I feel like usually when you look at like forced deportation, I'm going to see what came up. USSR after World War II. I'm going to see if I can find it really fast. Regional transfers. Nazi collaborators, 1949. Yes. I'm trying to like look what it was called. Was there a name for this specific policy? The company you work for as a contractor won't hire you permanently. They have contracts with ICE. Wow. Yeah. Yes, Nazi Germany took all their inspiration from us, from the United States. Yep. Very, very interesting. So I'm trying to figure out what these are called, but... I'm not finding it. But if you look up mass deportations, that's what they usually are falling under. I found this really this CIA document that's like so hard to read. Poland was a unique situation. So I wouldn't say that's a good example of it. Yeah, relocating Nazi collaborators is new. I know. I'm like, that's actually a pretty humane way to deal with that situation. I mean, it's not humane because obviously people who weren't Nazi collaborators got wrapped up in it because they couldn't verify in these regions who was or was not collaborating with the Nazis. So it is considered collective punishment, which isn't ideal. But again, I'm like, I can't think of a nicer thing to do when you have a region where people were literally collaborating with Hitler. Like, I don't know what's a better way to handle that, right? So, you know, this is the kind of stuff that if you find these documents about the mass deportations, is usually what they're called, you'll find. Oh, I think this is probably it. Here we go. The Chechens, Ingush, Kalmyk, Karachi, Balkans, and Crimean Tartars. Following the retreat of the German armies from the Caucasus in 1943, Moscow decreed the deportation of 6 ethnic minority groups to Central Asia as punishment. That's the U.S. wording. This is the CIA. For collaboration with the Germans. So with the Nazis, right? So this is it. And this is what you're going to find. So it was a few of them. And this is the info on this. So you guys can... I'll make a tiny URL for this for anybody who wants to suffer through this horrible copy of this. It looks like a bad photocopy they did here. But this is the CIA document on it. And you can obviously find more info on it as well. But there you go. Okay. So back over to this. We see, funding... This idea that the implication here, I think, is that like under Democrats, this money would be used to fund healthcare and housing, because they do make a point to say specifically the treatment of immigrants under the Trump administration. This is very clearly a Trump era focused document and has nothing to do with the United States and our treatment of immigrants in general, which is good. We should know. And they do have different approaches than Democrats. But at the same time, it does seem very like pass the buck. Like a Democrat would never do this. So yeah. So worth pointing out. There's going on here. So we've got the methodology. This is less interesting to me, just for the sake of time. We have the budgetary implications. Okay, so domestic and international human rights law and standards. While it is generally accepted that states have the prerogative to regulate the entry and stay of non-nationals into their territory, they can only do so within the limits of their human rights and humanitarian obligations. Irregular entry and stay in a country should not be treated as a criminal offense. And this is really something I think that's really important to note. And the ACLU reported on this, just for historical context, under Obama. I'm going to pull this up for you guys to see, because under Obama is really... I mean, under George Bush before him, definitely as well. This era, though, Bush, the Bush and Obama presidencies, the senior, Bush senior, not the senior, sorry, Bush junior, W. Bush, those presidencies, we really started to change the way we treated immigration here in the United States. So up to that point, immigration was not considered a criminal issue, right? It was just not that big of a deal. It was negligible. And after 9/11, George W. Bush really weaponized the idea of the immigrant. So it was this chance to basically come down on the outsider, on immigrants, and it was a chance to legalize racism in a lot of ways. And for the American public, I think that a lot of white Americans found it as cathartic, that all of a sudden there was this new framing of the immigrant that allowed them to basically vilify people of color again, right? You couldn't legally do segregation. It wasn't socially acceptable to just go be a violent racist in your communities. But now all of a sudden, by saying that 9/11 happened, it was bad, and we somehow are tying it to blame immigrants for it, right? Because the people who did it weren't from the United States. So they immigrated here. So maybe immigration was a problem. It was almost like creating a new outlet for the average white American to feel okay and even emboldened just being violently racist. And that's really what ICE appealed to. So when ICE started after 9/11, in 2005, as many people were killed in ICE custody as in 2025. It was very violent. And anybody not alive during this, I've talked about this before, we've all talked about this before, but just a reminder, after 9/11, there were literally like packs of white Americans running through the streets, like hunting down anybody they thought looked Middle Eastern and like killing them. Like people were getting murdered in the streets. There was this whole idea of vigilante justice happening. It was very, very alarming. And ICE came out of that culture. That's the culture that ICE was born from. So when George W. Bush left office, Obama inherited ICE. By that point, it had kind of ramped down its spending. 9/11 had been years in the past. You know, it was 2008 is when Obama came in. 2001 is when 9/11 had happened. And it was Obama who refunded and really kept ICE alive at a time when everybody was confused. Like, we don't need this agency. Why are we doing this? And under Obama, the criminalization of immigrants continued to be a main thing that he funded. And that's why he was nicknamed the deporter-in-chief, right? That's why the current border czar, Tom Homan or whatever, he came from Obama. Obama gave him a presidential medal for deporting so many people. So this is really the era when we started to treat immigration as a criminal offense, and it all has to do with 9/11. But then it just became a cathartic outlet for the average white American to just do racism and white supremacy. Yeah, racist got a racist, right? And this is the vehicle we created to allow them to do it. So, you know. This is a report I often reference for people who aren't familiar with this. This is from 2014. And this is for all the Democrats, the liberals who are like, well, you know, under Democrats, this wouldn't have happened. I just saw something on Twitter that was like, Obama deported 3 million people and nobody died. That's not true. People die in ICE custody every single year. And Obama in particular deported a lot of people, and there were a lot of deaths while ICE was doing this. So this story from 2014 talks about it, and the ACLU, this is what I said, the ACLU was consistent, right? They were always like, hey, no matter who's president, men or women, Barack Obama, Democrats or Republicans, there you go, the other binary, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Donald Trump, you know, whoever, Joe Biden, the way the United States has started treating immigration as a criminal offense is unique and bad, and other countries don't do this. So we're gonna look at this here. Yeah. Here's the screen that we're looking at now. The ACLU 2014 Speed Over Fairness Deportation under the Obama administration. So, and again, remember, the current border czar under Trump came from Obama's administration. Obama, exactly. Chase said Obama. Cercito says immigration is just a scapegoat. In the UK, the Reform Party is promising to fix the country by just deporting people. Exactly. Wonder who they will blame. They barely have any other policy. Once the immigrants are gone and the UK is still horrible, they will just blame another group. Yeah, that's what they do. Will there ever be a woman president? No, because we won't vote for them because we hate women. Not because they keep putting up the most violent, bizarre, fucking war criminal, bloodthirsty psychopaths they can. I think they're really trying to do this, like, lean-in thing. They're like, if it's a woman, she's got to be a murderous asshole so people take her seriously. I think that's really the Democratic Party's whole thing. I think the Republicans will get a woman elected before the Democrats will. Because the Republicans will just be like, make her blonde, give her big boobs, and give her a machine gun and say she wants to destroy Africa. And people will vote for her, and the Republicans will vote for that. I think the Republicans will elect a woman as president before the Democrats will because of that. Because Republicans know their base, and they know how to appeal to it. Democrats have no clue what their base is, let alone what kind of woman their base would want to see in office, right? Yeah, Erica Kirk. I think Erica Kirk is going to be president before we get a woman Democrat elected president. Sydney Sweeney, 2028, right? Exactly. Aspen will be the 2028 Republican nominee. And this is what they're going to do. Give her a machine gun, send her out there, bang, bang. It's going to happen. Kristi Noem. Yes, Kristi Noem. Any of these people are going to be great candidates. The Republicans, yes, Virgo, would promote a woman for president just to dunk on Dems being unable to get a woman elected. Yep. And that is the wild thing. For the Democrats trying to be the party of identity politics, they're not even good at identity politics. Like, the Republicans are even kind of kicking their ass at identity politics. They got psychopathic women all over that administration, right? They got a rainbow coalition of people upholding white supremacy somehow. Like, they're doing it. They're better at it, and they don't make a big deal about it. Baby on her hip, unloading a machine gun. Yeah, exactly. So, under Obama, the ACLU was coming out with reports like this. When removing individuals from this country, permanently severing them from their homes, families, and community, which is more important, fairness or speed? The United States has a proud tradition of individualized due process. No matter who you are, everyone deserves their day in court. This is especially important for immigrants, many of whom might qualify for prosecutorial discretion given their considerable roots in the United States, but who will only get that consideration if a judge can review their individual case and decide whether or not they must leave. This judicial review, a brief moment of individuality and impartiality within a system that often ignores both, is critical. Yet alarming new evidence has surfaced that in 3 out of 4 removal cases, this does not happen. So you hear a lot of Democrats be like, under Obama, they had due process. No, the fuck they didn't. 3 out of 4 of them had no due process whatsoever. So this was happening under Obama, so don't let the Democrats tell you this is a Trump-specific thing. Yesterday, the Migration Policy Institute released the report, The Deportation Dilemma, Reconciling Tough and Humane Enforcement. And Migration Policy Institute has a lot of good data about immigration in the United States. I use it a lot for numbers. I recommend it if you want to check it out. And they did this on the Obama administration's immigration enforcement report from the previous year. One of the MPI's principal findings is that the deportation system had dramatically changed over the past 19 years, moving from a judicial system prior to 1996, where the vast majority of people facing deportations had immigration court hearings, to a system today of non-judicial removals, where 75% of people removed do not see a judge before being expelled from the United States. So 1996, right, before we got into George W. Bush, we had Clinton. So this really started under Clinton. And this is what I mean. It's pretty recent, and it really took off under George W. Bush because of 9/11. And then Obama is really the one that solidified it as a tradition now of new American law. The numbers are staggering. In 1995, 1,400 immigrants were subject to non-judicial removals, which was just 3% of total deportations. By 2012, that number had increased to 313,000. So we went from like 95, 1,400 immigrants would be removed and not get to see a judge. That was 3%, right? 97% of immigrants got to see a judge and had a case before they were removed from the United States. That increased 313,000 people by 2012. And this is in my lifetime. So, if you're younger than me, I was 9 years old when this change started in 1995. Yes, Raccoon Child. It reminds you of the photos of the little boy representing himself in immigration court. Exactly. Yeah, Clinton was the law and order president. He was very conservative. And I think Clinton really was the start of this hyper conservative Democrat trend. Obama obviously ran on something different, though. Obama ran on hope. Obama ran on healthcare, universal healthcare. And that's how they win now. That's how Democrats win. They promise you a single, very, very left populist thing. They never deliver on it, but that's how they win, but just by promising it. And they're not promising anything, and that's not why they're not winning. They're trying to do that Clinton model, but it turns out nobody fucking liked the Clinton model, right? So they're still living in this Clinton model. Sir Cito, you feel young, you're born in 2007. That's okay, that's good. It's good to have young people interested, right, in our history and carrying things forward. That's like a positive thing. And so yesterday I was out canvassing for Peace and Freedom Party. And it was unfortunately a very easy sell yesterday because the Peace and Freedom Party politicians out here, they want to basically turn California into a sanctuary state and like use state resources to make sure ICE can't come into our state. And so I just was asking people, like, do you want to, I'm collecting signatures to help keep ICE out of California. And a lot of people lined up. And I was talking to some people about the Peace and Freedom Party, and they were like, why have I never heard of this before? And I had to tell them, like, in the 60s, it was big out here. But those people got older, and there weren't enough young people interested in socialism in the era between, like, the 90s, right, to 2010-ish, to really keep the party alive in a major way. Now there are young people, I mean, under the age of 40, right? The old heads who started the party are still around, but they're like in their 70s. They're old, right? Some of them are in their 80s. Like, it takes younger people being interested to keep this stuff alive. And that's why now we see in California, the Peace and Freedom Party is the fastest growing political party in California, because young people are interested in it again. So, you know, we got to do that. Any Rex for the people pushing 30. Keep on pushing, baby. I mean, you might not see it happen in your lifetime, but you got to keep going. And that's how it goes, right? And if we don't see it happen in our lifetime, we do it so we can talk to younger people and be like, maybe this will happen in your lifetime. And that's the future we fight for. And drink water. Quitting simmer, Jamie. Buy a house as soon as you can. Even if you think you can't afford it, buy a house as soon as you can. Even if you don't think you're going to live there forever. And if you think you can't afford a house, the second you get full-time employment, go talk to a mortgage broker and show them your documents and see if you can afford to buy a house. Basically, if you have full-time employment with a normal job where you're not a contractor and you're not paid under the table, you might be able to afford to buy a house, and I think you should really try. That is my biggest thing. Because, you know, my financial stuff, a mess. Bought a house, that's the one thing I got going for me, right? You're touring a condo tomorrow, Raccoon Child. Yay! Yeah. Buy a house, buy an AK. Yeah. You've got such bad credit. Here's the thing. Buying a house, you can have worse credit than renting. You just need to have above a 600 credit score to buy a house. 650 is what they prefer, but 600 you can still get it. I know people who bought a house on a 580 credit score. You can't rent an apartment on a 580 score. They won't fucking let you do that. They're like, 700 or you have to get a cosigner. Yeah. How much debt can you have while trying to buy a house? I had debt. I had, I think, $30,000 of debt when I got approved. So it depends basically on the minimum monthly payments every month versus your income. It just has to be a percentage. Yeah. And they use what's left over to determine how much of a mortgage payment you can afford. I think it's easier to buy a house than to rent a place. Unless you're going on like Craigslist and doing like room shares or you know it through a guy. If you were just trying to rent an apartment out free and clear, where I live in LA anyway, and LA has very, very expensive housing, I found it easier to buy a house than to rent. Fewer hoops to jump through. Yeah. So you had pretty terrible credit, thought you would never get approved, ended up with more than you thought. Yep. Simmer Jamie had a cosigner for every apartment you ever rented, own a condo now. Yep. So this is what I try to tell people, because like the thing is, if you're renting, you're already paying a mortgage. You're paying your landlord's mortgage, right? So odds are your landlord's charging you more than the mortgage, because you're paying the mortgage and you're paying them a little bit. So, you know, at first it might feel like your house is expensive, but your house doesn't go up every year in rent. So when I bought my house, I was like $2,500 a month. That's so expensive. That was like 6 years ago. Now I'm like, holy shit, that's cheap for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in central Los Angeles. Might sound expensive for where you live. In LA, that's cheap. So I definitely recommend checking it out. Yes, rent money is flushed down the drain. A mortgage is a loan, but you're working towards ownership. Exactly. And for me, as a person who doesn't have a lot of financial stability, my house will be paid off when I'm 65. So if I sell my house at 65, whatever money I make, that will be just pure profit, and that will be my money for my retirement. Because here in the United States, we don't have pensions, we don't have guaranteed retirement plans or anything like that. So that'll fund my retirement. And that's money if I was renting, I wouldn't get that, right? So, you've given up. I mean, I think they want you to give up. I think they want to make us a nation of renters, very obviously. So I really try to tell people, just check it out. Talk to a mortgage broker, not a regular lender either. Lenders are different than brokers. Find a mortgage broker and just ask them. And they'll look at your finances. Oh, my thing died. And they'll tell you straight up if they think you can afford it, if you can't, what you need to do, what you need to change. And they're actually really good. Hold on. So when I helped my partner buy their apartment in New York, that process, it actually took us a year to get approved for them to get their place. And in the end, I'm pretty sure I maybe had to bribe a guy. I don't know. It was like weird. It was like, just send this guy $3,000. Haha. And I was like, okay. But it worked and it was worth it. So whatever happened, it happened. They want to get you the loan and they will figure it out. All right. So back on this, so yeah, really this is a semi-recent thing where we're treating being an immigrant like you are being criminal. And this is pretty rare. Now, this was in 2014 again, what we're looking at. The ACLU was saying under the Obama administration, under that removal system, only 1/4 of all people facing expulsion got to prepare their case before an immigrant judge. These judges employed by the Justice Department are experts in immigration law. They conduct formal court hearings where they hear live witnesses, review documentary evidence, and evaluate applications for immigration relief. By contrast, non-judicial removals are fast-tracked proceedings wholly controlled by the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, our favorite genocide apologia Barbie's alma mater, sometimes involving only a single border agent who acts as both judge and jury. And that's true. It can be a random border guard who decides. They started replacing an entire court system and a judge trained on immigration law. And those people facing non-judicial removal have no lawyer and no chance to appeal the decision. Yes, I am planning to visit China this year for my birthday in August. I got to save up money. I really want to go. I'm very, very excited. I would love to hit all of them. That's my goal. You're so slow today. Are we reading the ACLU or the AI report right now? You're not slow at all. I'm kind of bouncing around. We do ADHD through this all. So we're reading the ACLU report right now because I just want to give a little bit of precedent that this Amnesty International report, they're failing to take into account that the situation we're looking at with immigration did not come up out of nowhere under Donald Trump, right? There's a history of this. And the history of this really, the Obama administration really solidified this process using the same border czar that Trump has today of these non-judicial removals being standard. And prior to that, it was treated as not really a criminal offense, but you would go to court, you'd talk to a judge, they'd look at your situation, things like this. How come they gave Obama a Nobel Peace Prize but not Trump yet? They'll probably give him one too. Who knows? So the ACLU was saying the Obama administration has prioritized speed over fairness in the removal system, sacrificing individualized due process in the pursuit of record removal numbers. A deportation system that herds 75% of people through fast-track streamlined removal is a system devoid of fairness and individualized due process. Non-judicial removals violate our constitutional tradition and cannot be reconciled with an administration that has repeatedly stated its commitment to immigration reform. So this is what was happening in 2014. So it's like how it started, and now we're over here. Alcatraz Island, torture and disappearances. This is how it's going. So that's kind of the tie-in. So now we're back on the Amnesty International article. This is where we jumped off from that point, was looking at this where they said irregular entry and stay in a country should not be treated as a criminal offense. And historically, it was not, right? And this is kind of what they're talking about here in this Amnesty International thing. International law and standards prohibit collective and summary expulsions. All deportations must respect due process, which includes an individual assessment of the risks upon return. So this is international law and standards, right? But we see Obama was not adhering to that. As we know, he was doing extrajudicial deportations en masse. So they're saying deportation should be assessed on a case-by-case basis, carried out only in compliance with the decision made by law. That is true. Also, Democrats have not been doing that. So this is an American approach. This is a bipartisan, capitalist American approach to deportations, and it has not been ethical under Democrats as well. So they talk about the right to seek asylum. We all know this is especially ironic because most of the people coming here seeking asylum, they have to do that because we have destroyed their home countries, which is very, very sad. torture and other cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatments or punishments. It's inhuman, but I always say inhumane. I always read it as inhumane. International law prohibits torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment absolutely in all circumstances and without exception. According to Article 1 of the UN Convention Against Torture, an act constitutes torture if 4 elements are present. Number 1, intention. Number 2, infliction of severe physical or mental pain or suffering. Number 3, a purpose such as coercion, intimidation, obtaining information, or confession or discrimination. And 4, a degree of official involvement. So cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment is not defined under international law. But that's what they're looking at there. Business responsibility under international law and standards. The UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights reiterate that such duty applies to the context of corporate activities as well. So I guess you can't corporately torture people, but we all know that we have a huge situation here with privately run prisons, right? So those are privately owned. We have the business of prison. Oh, hydrates. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Big got go. Got you. Thank you. So, okay. One more, Bentalis. My skin's gonna look great. All right. Oh. Ghost pain. So when we look at here, they're very transparently just looking at the Trump administration's mass detention and deportation machine. Since taking office on January 20th, 2025, President Trump and his administration have subjected migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees to a litany of human rights violations. True. The administration has adopted a series of measures aimed at criminalizing, detaining, and deporting migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees from the United States, and at the same time by blocking their entry into the U.S. The language used by the Trump administration, both in public statements and official documents, is racist, discriminatory, xenophobic, and dehumanizing. True. The harmful and false narratives being perpetuated by the administration have gone on to justify and shape a largely racist mass immigration detention and deportation machine. True. But worth noting, also existed under every single president in the United States, certainly since George W. Bush. 25% of the world's prisoners are in America. That's Emma Cray. Yeah. And this is something tying with the North Korea thing where everybody's like, the prison camps. They don't even call them prisons, right? They have to invent new names for prisons in countries that are our political enemies. They're prison camps. They're concentration camps. They're torture centers. It's just a prison. We have prisons too. By the United States' own estimates, North Korea's prison population is potentially less than half as a percentage of their total population than the United States. So like we have big business in locking people up in all sorts of capacities, right? So yeah, hard labor camps, right? Exactly. This is the stuff we hear. It's just a prison and less of their population is in prison than ours, right? And slavery is legal in American prisons. Yes, we have forced labor in our prisons as well. You're just making thongs for Victoria's Secret, right? That's what you're doing, which is even more sinister in my head somehow. I don't know. It's very, very, very weird. So, multiple executive orders refer to notions that the United States is under attack, overrun by cartels, criminal gangs, known terrorists, human traffickers, smugglers, unvetted military-age males from foreign adversaries. It's a really awkward one. I want that on a t-shirt. Unvetted military-age male from a foreign adversary. I love that. And illicit narcotics that harm Americans. And they're saying they have endured a large-scale invasion at an unprecedented level, the American government, and is overseeing an unprecedented flood of illegal immigration. That's what happens when you destroy people's countries, right? They have to come here. That's how that goes. But we also don't even have that big of an epidemic with immigration, with illegal immigration. And actually, that's been a problem for Trump because, one of the biggest issues is that under a Republican presidency, because they use so much of this rhetoric, fewer people try to enter the United States, which means that they can deport fewer people. They can't turn people away at the border because not a lot of people are coming to the border. So that's why they have to start going inward and doing these removals to hit these numbers that they want to do, to talk about how tough they are on the border. It's easier for Democrats to deport more people, which they do historically a lot of the time, because more people are trying to come, and they just turn them away at the border. They just send them home. Follower goal, Matt, 2,600. Yay. It's so funny. I'm like, it's so much better doing content here with only 2,600 followers than over on TikTok with 1.6 million. I'm like, this is way more rewarding. So I'm going to show you guys the numbers again really fast. I have to sneeze. Sorry. We're going to look at the deportations by president. And I just want to do this as a reminder. Here it is. So when we look at this number, look at the deportations under Clinton. Look how high they are here. Right? Under Bush, they're a little lower. And under Obama, they were lower. But see this blue line? This blue wave is removals. So we talked about this before, but just for anybody who's missed it. So Obama has the highest removals. And Trump has been trying to compete with Obama's removals. Right? And that's when people are already living in the United States and we pluck them out and we say, go home. A lot of these other ones are border returns. Like you're at the border and we're like, no, you can't, or things like that, you know. The green was Title 42 expulsions under COVID. So Biden has some of the highest numbers. His numbers were higher than Trump's in total. Yes, I am a millionaire landlord. I can buy a passport for $400,000 in Malta and then I can enter North Korea. I'm going to do that. Great idea. I forgot I was a millionaire. Thank you for reminding me, Circito. I can just do that. I love being rich. So anyway, yeah. So these removals here under Obama were very, very high. Way higher than Bush. Trump's struggling to catch up with them. And that's why Trump hired Obama's guy. Because Obama's guy, who we have now, Tom Homan or whatever, he did this. He raised those removals. Here we go. What did we get? 1 out of 10. What did we get? It's always giving me these like alerts over here on Twitch. I'm like, what's happening? Danaway91 says you started working in immigration during Obama 2, and you don't remember his administration granting any requests for stays of removal that you filed for your clients' bond requests. Yep, this is where we really saw it. Clipped Madeline is a millionaire confirmed. Oh, also you guys, if you do want to help out clipping things, you can even do them as rage bait. That's funny, I think. But whatever you want to clip, if you save the clips, then they show up on my page and then I can like repost them on TikTok and stuff, which could be nice. I love being rich on TikTok. So yeah, so this is really though just it's a bipartisan issue. It's a bipartisan issue. Ranting about Glee, Virgo. I actually loved Glee. There's a theater kid in me somewhere. We were just looking at the total deportation records by president. Okay, so we're back on this. We are now back. So, this report is correct, but it is also neglecting to acknowledge the fact that this has been a bipartisan issue for many presidents in many years. Is Kurt an actor from Fresno? Really? Probably north of Shaw, but I believe that. I could see that. It says you would have to follow me for a month before being able to clip. Okay, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. So, anybody who's followed me for a month, do it. Oh, gifting. Yay. Thank you. Rob has gifted 15 subs to us. So, very, very nice. We have a good gifting culture. Thank you guys so much for doing this. You know what else I liked on top of Glee was Scream Queens. I loved Scream Queens. I don't know if you guys watch Scream Queens. You were just ranting about how they'd actually hired a disabled singer to play Artie. The wheelchair episode would have been so cringe. Yeah. Yeah. But they couldn't find someone who could sing in a wheelchair? Like, that is really weird. Why would they not just hire somebody in a wheelchair? Oh my God. Yeah, I loved Scream Queens. Okay, so President Trump has vowed to remove 1 million people from the United States. But Obama removed 3 million people. Like, so again, it's not like they hear this and you're like, 1 million people. Nobody's like, and Obama did 3 million. Like, nobody's saying this. And it's very clearly political theater at this point. Scream Queens, Circito, was this TV show that was very, very campy. And it was about like a group of sorority girls maybe who started getting murdered. It was hilarious, though. It was very weird. It's horror satire, yes. So that's what's going on. I think my Twitch is officially 2 months. Like, you could have 2 months of subscriptions on my Twitch, I think is what it is. Yeah. We're just getting there. We're getting there. Now, some of the administration's measures are designed to facilitate and enhance ICE and other government agencies' abilities to detain migrants and people seeking asylum. From January to November 2025, ICE and CPB, that's Customs and Border Patrol, arrested over 305,000 individuals. And DHS, Department of Homeland Security, they oversee ICE and CPB, Customs and Border Protection. That's all under Department of Homeland Security. They rescinded guidelines which prohibited ICE enforcement actions in sensitive locations like schools and courthouses. So that allowed agents to conduct enforcement actions in or near those areas. And a lot of people don't know that they did that they rescinded that. I was talking to some people yesterday who were like, but they can't do it in schools. And I'm like, yes, they can now. So these methods deter victims and witnesses from reporting crimes, seeking restraining orders, or accessing legal remedies, thereby weakening the rule of law and public safety more broadly. So they're like, this basically creates an environment of pervasive fear, violating people's human rights. Families report avoiding schools, hospitals, workplaces, grocery stores, and places of worship due to fear of detention or family separation. In January, President Trump also signed the Laken-Riley Act into law, which requires that DHS detain any individual who is unlawfully present in the United States and has been charged with, arrested for, or convicted for, or admits to having committed acts that constitute the essential elements of burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting. The DOJ issued interim policies allowing it to criminally prosecute individuals if they enter the U.S. irregularly and has started criminally charging individuals with illegal entry. So now, just coming to the United States illegally, being an immigrant, basically, an illegal immigrant, whatever, that means you have a crime. You've been convicted of a crime now. This is a crime. So now this means that they're able to say that they've deported all these criminals. Well, a lot of them, their only crime is being an immigrant, right? So... Yep, mind you, Dems, Warnock, and Ossoff voted in favor of the Laken-Riley Act, Danny Way 91. And a lot of people are speculating based on the current vote that, the House only needed 7 Democrats' votes to pass the budget bill that allocated more money to the military. And they got exactly 7. And a lot of people are like, you're telling me this isn't a controlled opposition party. But I want to say a lot of times they know in advance what the votes are going to be. And they do a lot of trading and deals and negotiating with Democrats. Like, we'll vote in favor of this if you vote in favor of that. So not to get totally conspiratorial. I mean, they're definitely a controlled opposition party. But the extent to which, So you might see people be like, they needed 7. They got 7. The Democrats are in on it too. I've retweeted people saying that because I'm like, yeah, it looks fucking ridiculous. But it could also just be that they are negotiating for them just for the sake of being fully clear and transparent. They're trading votes for shit all the time. So that is saying that's officially a law. Yes, that's officially a law. Yes. The U.S. military budget is a measure of graft. Yes, that is true. So what that means, basically, the military budget is like a way to legally give money to these massive corporations who do defense contracting, right? They're contracted by the U.S. government to make weapons, to do all sorts of defense-related things for our military. These companies make so much money. Their CEOs have some of the largest pay packs ever, right? And then a lot of the times when Congress people leave Congress, they'll get jobs even at those defense contractors. So it's like bribery. It's like you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing. And a lot of times we're also spending money on pointless things that don't make sense. The military budget is never really audited to any high standard. They've been caught spending thousands of dollars for things that should cost $5. They've been caught spending millions of dollars on helicopters that don't even work. I mean, it's just it's like a black hole of money. So that's one of the things we talk about where we're like, Republicans are not the party of austerity. They actually don't care about the budget. They just want to spend all this money on militarized presence, whether it be local police, ICE, or the actual military. Like a grift, but political. $100 for a pencil. Tanks, military industrial complex, exactly all of that. So, tanks for everyone. The famously, the Los Angeles Unified School District has a tank. That is not a lie. I wish that was a lie. Unless they sold it. But for a long time, they definitely had a tank. We had a tank for our schools here in LA. And it is important to us as a people. We need the school tank. That's important for us. You had trees. No, you got to get rid of those. You got to replace all the trees with tanks. Tanky school. That's what I always tell people. People are like, you're a tanky. And I'm like, the capitalist countries have more tanks Then all the communists combined, and it's not even close. Okay, Russia does have a lot of tanks, but Russia, they're not us anymore. So technically, really, the commies have hardly any tanks if you think about it. So I'm just saying, we're not the real tankies here, but tanky does sound cool, so I don't want to give them that. They don't get to take that from us. I enjoy the moniker of tanky. Yeah, we're in tanky school right now. Yes, exactly, I'm McCrae. They don't give a shit about the budget. They make a fortune off the military. It's just a talking point. Exactly. So, they do say here, immigration detention has long been a problem in the United States with history of abuse and cruel conditions. Under the Trump administration, the use of immigration detention has substantially increased. Okay, so they give you a little nod. They're like, oh, yeah, maybe it's been a problem. But it's so bad in Trump. And it is so bad in Trump. That is true. But again, I just resign. And this is what I was talking about with Project 2025, too. All these people are like, you told people Project 2025 wasn't a big deal. And I'm like, I actually never said that. I said it is a big deal, and it's horrible. But also, Democrats take heritage talking points, too. This is business as usual. And this is the stuff that should be appalling. And that's stuff I get really resistant to. Whenever anybody tries to present Republicans, Trump, as being some unique evil that's somehow not in line with American history, contemporary American politics, the way we do things as a country, I'm like, that is fucking offensive. This is exactly how we do things as a country. This is how we have always done things as a country. And this idea that Donald Trump's the unique evil, and this has nothing to do with American heritage or tradition or policy, it's just revolting. It's vile, right? So that's why I get so mad at these things. So they're saying the Trump administration has dedicated large amounts of federal and state resources to fund its mass detention and deportation machine. That is true as well. On July 4th, 2025, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill, which provided $170 billion in additional funding to DHS, ICE, and Customs and Border Patrol, and also the Department of Defense for immigration and border enhancement related activities. And I think that's important to remember. I talked about this on TikTok, but just in case I didn't talk about it here. ICE is an extension domestically of our military's actions around the globe. What did they do? They started criminalizing Venezuelan immigrants, and then we bombed Venezuela and kidnapped their president, right? So we have all this stuff going on in Sudan with Somalia. We're very, very active, Somaliland, right? And we're criminalizing Somali immigrants in Minneapolis. That is the domestic branch of our military. So when people talk about imperial boomerang theory, whatever our military does in other countries, it's going to do at home. It's quite literal here in the United States, and ICE is the domestic arm of our military goals. So I think that's really important for us to keep in mind. Also important for us to keep in mind, it would cost an estimated $50 billion per year to end both hunger and homelessness combined in the United States. Not 50 billion each, 25 billion-ish each. So they could end hunger and homelessness if they wanted to. They don't. They don't want to. This could fund ending hunger and homelessness for 3 years with a little left over. They don't care. It's not, and people are always like, but you can't end hunger and homelessness. It's impossible. I wish I knew how. That's not true. People know how. There is a specific budget. Other countries have done it. We know how to do it, and it doesn't even cost that much money. We just won't. So very, very wild. So they're just talking about this increased budgeting. Yes. The state of Florida is involved in this very, very obviously. Oh, also I wanted to point this out. It's also not a coincidence. In talking about the tie-in between ICE and immigration as an extension of our foreign policy and militarized action around the globe, this is happening in Florida. I also want to point out, we joke about it, but there is a reason so much of the conservative diaspora for these countries that we are invading lives in Florida. When we look at people who leave Latin American countries who are backed by the United States, political leaders backed by the United States who leave Latin American countries and have to go basically seek asylum informally in the United States because they've been run out of their country for being weird traitors, they always are resettling in Florida. So there is very much a specific tie-in with this Florida thing that I think is worth noting. I know it's a joke. It's like Miami. Oh, of course, the diaspora is in Miami and they're telling us to bomb their country. We're doing 3 drinks. That's real. This is a Florida thing. This is a Miami thing. Did we get balloons? Did we get balloons? I didn't see. Okay, so this is all happening in Florida for a reason, very, very obviously. Now, Let's see if there's anything else in here that's particularly interesting to go through. They're just talking about how it's bad and scary, which is correct. It is bad and scary. Currently, 5 ICE facilities in the state of Florida, along with beds in local and county jails, are being rented by ICE. That's alarming. And they are used to hold individuals under ICE detention. So on September 15th of 2025, the average daily population of individuals held in ICE detention in Florida was approximately 2,188. This is compared with an average daily population of 1,479 individuals on January 1st, 2025, representing a 47% increase in only 8 months. And that is significant, but you know, come on, for Democrats to be acting like there's no possible way this would have happened under Kamala. It's like, well, it would have happened to 1,479 people under Kamala. And the idea that it's not 2,188, but only 1,479, I'm sorry, I'm not okay with that. Like, that's not acceptable to me, right? Oh, balloons while I was drinking. Oh, that's funny. Sorry, I missed it. Very, very fascinating stuff. So, we've got some more artwork here. Okay. And we have a quote here. Sanctuary of the South says, the powers that be are absolutely profiting off of having as many people as possible in detention. We've had clients who have been begging to be deported, but just keep getting transferred. This is an infinite torture loop that focuses on the harm people are experiencing. People are dying. People are being tortured. People are being beaten. People are losing their humanity. I think this is really interesting too. Right? People are begging to be deported, some of them, and we won't let them. Why? Because we've privatized this whole process and people are profiting off of it. And I think that that is really funny. Do a Madeline Street special where you just get me drunk. That's fine. We can do that. I think they make vegan Jell-O. I think they do. Like, not the Jell-O brand, but like off-brand vegan Jell-O. Can we talk about admins going into prisons to deport people in order to inflate criminal numbers when that started? Wait, can you explain this a little better? I don't think I'm understanding. Oh, but how did that inflate criminal numbers? I do know what you're talking about because I've had friends imprisoned who are not here legally, who weren't here legally at the time anyway. And basically prison guards got to act as their on the spot, like court and jury, and decide if they stayed or not. Which it was just a random prison guard. That's not even an ICE agent. Not that having an ICE agent do it is better or worse, but we talked about how they do that normally. In prisons, it's literally a prison guard who does that same thing, but prison guards are just private employees. Oh, which is wild. Okay. I put out another dialectical material and comm theory article on your Substack talking about how corporate media is complicit in the rising adoption of authoritarian governance. If you're interested, check that out. Okay, we'll link it. Thanks. We'll take a look. Oh, we make it seem like they are actually deporting criminals so they can justify deporting non-criminals. I mean, yeah, that's something we've always done as well. And that's part of, they just made it a criminal act to be an illegal immigrant. And that's why they're like, so you're a criminal now. So congrats on being a criminal. Now you're deported. So it looks like they're deporting criminals. And then, you know, obviously even the criminals they deport, you look at it, what we talk about as being a criminal offense is socially created. That's socially created. So like in Marina Lita, Spain, right? The little commie town, holding it down in Spain. They had a period where before they had their full revolution and became a commie town, people were going hungry. So they just decided once they had their little commie awakening, they were like, okay, it's not illegal to steal food anymore. Literally, that's what they decided. They're like, you're hungry, steal food. Go into the grocery store, take food. You're hungry, eat. And all of a sudden their crime disappeared overnight. Why? Because they changed the definition of what crime was. And so that's important for us to remember too, right? Crime is socially constructed. Okay, I'm sorry. I've spent a lot of time in Spain. I've been a lot of places in Spain. But that's why it's funny too when we talk about people like Aspen, right? Who's like, my entire channel is about North Korea, a place I went to for a week 10 years ago. That literally, if I had an entire TikTok account that was like Madeline in Spain, where I was telling you zany stories about Spain, I've spent more time in Spain than that woman has spent in North Korea. It is fucking weird that she is doing that. And she went a decade ago. Like, that's a crazy thing to do. Like, I cannot imagine getting on the internet and being like, I'm an expert in Spain. Like, that's crazy. And I have been there way more than that woman has been to North Korea. And that's the thing. If you replace North Korea with any other country name, when people are talking about North Korea, if you want to know if it's fucking batshit crazy or not, just replace North Korea with any other country. Just replace it with, like, even a country you don't know a lot, Guatemala, right? Most Americans don't know a lot about Guatemala, replace it with France, replace it with Germany, and then listen to that sentence. Does that sound insane to you? Does it seem insane that a woman would go on the internet, a white woman with blonde hair, and make an entire account about an Asian country if that country was Thailand? If she was like, Aspen, Thailand, I went there on vacation once 10 years ago for a week. I'm an expert. Let me teach you all about Thailand. You would think that was insane, right? These people are crazy. So, yes, that's the expertise she was claiming. Yes. Yes. And that's what everybody's like, well, how could you know? You've never been there. I was like, she's barely been there. Like, what? It's crazy. Okay, let's see. Purge of China's military brings its top general down. No, maybe I have to... I think I gotta pay for New York Times again. But that's interesting. Total annihilation of the high command. Huh. Interesting. Purge. They're doing a purge. We love a purge. You're an expert in New York City because your mom took you when you was an infant. Yeah, this is like the level of crazy. And we just trust this shit. We're like, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds right. How does she have enough content from a week? Well, that's why she's just repeating prol slop about fucking North Korea. She's prol slopped the fuck out. And people are like, she's been there. She's been there. And I'm like, well, I went to Minnesota and told you that I thought it was too cold and there was lots of roadkill. And then everyone said I was not qualified to speak. Also, if we believe her, then when she went there, all she would have saw is fake buildings and actors. So she wouldn't have seen the truth. Exactly. Like, she's just a crazy person. It's insane. Like, it's actually insane. But the average person is so propagandized about North Korea, they will believe anything. Anything. Yeah, she told us she makes her content. She probably does have freaking news alerts on for Radio Free Asia. Because how is she getting this shocking content? And it's so easy to do. It's so clickbaity. And you can make so much money making content like this. So many people do. So many people have. Okay, so... All right, we've got the rest of this article. We're going to read some firsthand accounts. We have an individual in detention in Chrome. At 10 p.m., they took us out of the cells to the reception area. We were shackled at the waist, hands, and feet. They made us sit on a metal bench for almost 24 hours until they finally put us on the bus. It was very cold. I was shaking. We couldn't sleep. They gave us only a little bit of food. At 8 p.m. the next day, we were finally put on the bus, but the bus didn't actually leave until midnight or 1 a.m. We weren't given any food or water on the bus. 8 p.m., and they made them sit on a bus for 5 hours. That's wild. I had pneumonia and was driving to my last doctor's appointment when ICE pulled me over near my house and arrested me. I was taken to the Walton County Jail where I was left in a cell by myself for 3 days. I needed medicine for my lung infection. I was finally given some. I was then taken to Tallahassee. I was shackled and wasn't given water. I was then taken to Alligator, Alcatraz on a Friday around 9 p.m. I wasn't given any food or water. I was held on a bus from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., shackled the whole time. And this is crazy, right? Because people are like, well, you shouldn't have broken the law. You shouldn't have been here illegally. We do not have a culture globally where immigration is a criminal offense. So the idea that even in the United States, even as we ramped up the treatment of people who've been here for years were like, oh, I wouldn't expect this. You know, like you'd expect something, but not this. So it's very, very confusing. It's like when ICE agents give you conflicting information, you know, it's all you can really go off of is the precedent that's been established. And while the precedent under Democrats was that this happens as well, you know, the precedent isn't that you're going to be shackled and, you know, so this is an escalation, definitely, right? The precedent's not that you're going to be shackled and held on a bus for 6 hours. You don't expect that, right? You don't expect that. So it's pretty wild. Oh, Happy GMAX says, I've lived in Florida for 40 years. I don't even claim to be an expert. It's a big, diverse place. Exactly. And North Korea's population is roughly the size of California's, too, you know? So it's like the same thing as California. Like, I can't even be an expert on California, and I grew up here. And that's what I try to tell people, too. They're like, but you haven't been there. And I'm like, if you plucked the average American, the average person from the United States out, and you started talking to them and asking them questions about American politics, do you think they know about American politics? The average person probably does not. The average American does not know the U.S. Agency for Global Media even exists, let alone what it does. So this idea that if you're from a place, you're not even an expert on it, what makes going somewhere on vacation for 7 days somehow give you expert status on something? It's absolutely crazy. These people are insane. But again, pro slop about North Korea, very, very easy, very monetizable, very profitable, very simple to do. Yeah, it's very, very wacky. So, And I do think, like, one of the things is that I'm bad at slop content. I don't know how to do slop content. And a lot of these people are really good at slop content. I don't know how to make pro slop, right? So that's an issue. I need to get better at pro slop. I need a crash course in pro slop. All right, what else do we have? So we have people, again, I don't want to say this isn't an escalation. It's definitely clearly a fucking escalation. But Democrats did lay the groundwork for this. Things like this were happening under Democratic administrations to lesser degrees or variants of degrees. And the Democrats are clearly not doing enough to actually stop this. So that's like the big takeaway from this. And I think that's what's important to know. Amnesty International was told individuals experience racism and mistreatment during their check-ins. One man seeking asylum shared the officers inside the facility yell at us. They have little patience. They treat older people poorly. The situation feels tense. There's a lot of fear. The officers are doing more thorough revisions of people than before. Yes, that is true. And somebody at Alligator Alcatraz says it's a copy of Guantanamo. The conditions are inhumane. We're kidnapped there. It's illegal, and it doesn't belong to ICE. So they have the capacity to detain around 3,000 people there. The facility is located in the Everglades, which is a fragile ecosystem and one of Florida's most ecologically sensitive areas. President Trump celebrated the facility's opening, saying we're going to teach migrants how to run away from an alligator if they escape prison. That's the only way out, really. It's deportation. Florida's gator-guarded prisons for illegal aliens is according to what the Florida Republican Party tweeted about it. Apparently, it's a new type of detention facility being operated and paid for by the state of Florida rather than the federal government. So this is what we were talking about earlier. Somebody was talking about this in chat. Something about how the state regulations are different than the federal regulations. And that means that they have a little bit more gray area to come up with their regulatory process on their own. $3.5 billion for state and local cooperation with ICE was funded by the Big Beautiful Bill. And in October 2025, federal officials approved a $608 million reimbursement to the state of Florida for the cost of building and operating Alcatraz Island. So the federal government reimbursed them for some of this, which I think is interesting. There was a lawsuit filed by the Miccosukee tribe and environmental groups in June of 2025. And that actually resulted in a court order that shut the facility down within 60 days. That was like the order. But then Florida authorities transferred a large number of people out of the facility, and then the Court of Appeals reversed that order, unfortunately. So, you remember the lawsuit? Yeah. They're saying it's inhuman and unsanitary detention centers, very obviously. We've got some quotes here. We're locked up in 1,000 square foot cages. We talked about that. 32 people in each cage. We read that whole quote. We didn't have access to any sort of media. There's no television or newspapers. We didn't have the ability to practice our religion. There are no Bibles. We were locked up in the cages for almost 24 hours a day. We couldn't have any visits, not even our lawyers or family members. And again, just like imagine that they're saying this about North Korea. Imagine they're saying this about China. Oh my God. This would be pro-slop for days if this was about the USSR, right? About any country that currently is or previously had practiced communism, socialism. We would hear this for days. Venezuela, Cuba. This would be grounds for us to do an invasion. We'd be like, they're torturing people. They're torturing innocent people. We have to go blow them up, right? So I think that's really interesting too when we talk about these. There are 3 toilets in each cage. There's no privacy. There are cameras above the toilets. The toilets were clogged a lot and shit overflowed from them. I saw a big snake. A friend was bitten by a spider that laid eggs inside of him. Oh, God, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine you're hearing that about North Korea. I've never heard that about North Korea. I've heard that about the United States, right? That's fucking barbaric. It's barbaric. The food is dirty. I found hair in it. The lights are always on and the water smells bad. It's terrifying what happened in the Everglades concentration camp over the summer. Individuals were kept outside, restrained, and left to the mosquitoes carrying disease. They were kept in cages without sufficient access to basic amenities. The toilets were overflowing. They were only allowed to shower once a week, if that. The conditions are terrible. These are human beings. These are people's fucking family members. These are average everyday people. It's a woman going to the doctor for her pneumonia medication. Like, it's absolutely appalling. But if you know anything about the treatment of people convicted of crimes just in regular U.S. prisons, this is what it's like for them too. This is what it's like for for teenagers who get caught stealing a pack of gum. Like, this is what detention in the United States means. So, when we have the audacity to talk about other countries having prison camps, hard labor camps, whatever, this is the reality of detention in the United States as well, right? If you guys remember, during COVID lockdowns, people who were basically stuck in prisons who weren't getting access to proper protective kind of spacing or PPE or food even, and people weren't working at the prisons, they would go home and people would be abandoned there. During Hurricane Katrina, people who were left to die in the prisons. Like, all these conditions are barbaric, and people will even sometimes share conditions they found their family members in prisons, locked in solitary confinement. So it's important to note that this is how all incarceration in the United States is run. So we are just expanding incarceration to immigration, but this is the reality of incarceration across the United States. And those people are also human beings who sometimes have been convicted of very, very nominal crimes. Very nothing burger crimes, right? Your roommate got arrested for showing police the middle finger. They threatened her with prison. Exactly. Like, yes. So this is very, very, very common. Yeah, I don't know. And you know, like, jail and prison are separate, right? Like, jail facilities are kind of similar, it sounds like, in a lot of ways to this, because they'll have like one area with everybody in it, and they will have public bathrooms and stuff. In jail, you don't have privacy for that kind of stuff usually either, depending on where you are, I guess. Prison's different. Prison, usually you're there longer and they have individual cells for you, so it is a little different. But this feels more like a jail situation than a prison situation, but you're there for an extended period of time. Usually in jails, people aren't there that long. It's usually like temporary, like holding. And full disclosure, I've been arrested before and I've been to jail, but the jail was too full, and so I was just left in the waiting room for a really, really long time, and then they let me go. I didn't even realize I'd actually properly been arrested until I got the paperwork in the mail later. So, I've been arrested, but I haven't, and I've been to jail, but I haven't been held in jail because it was too full. So they let me go. So that's just my full disclosure on it. All right. So inadequate and inaccessible medical care. We can imagine that. This person says, someone passed out in my cage. We were yelling at the guards for help. The guards came in and pushed a bunch of people to the ground. They took a man out on a stretcher. I'm asthmatic. I use a puffer. I was detained at Alcatraz for 11 days. I was never given one. Like, 11 days would be like a long time to be in a jail. Like, a lot of people aren't there that long. I mean, I guess some people are held like for up to 30 days, but most people I know who've been held in jail, it's usually overnight, 72 hours, things like that. So these are kind of jail-like conditions, but for extended stays. I suffered a lot with the changes from hot to cold because the power was constantly going out. The medical area doesn't work. People didn't receive their medication. If they needed medication at 8 p.m., they would get it at 2 in the morning. So it's pretty bad. We have another testimony saying, I got to the point where I couldn't even stand up because of the pain in my back, lungs, and kidney. And this is from a person who had pneumonia when they were arrested. I couldn't even go to the bathroom. Sometimes I was taken to the medical area, but I was shackled the whole time. I eventually was taken to a hospital in Kendall, and I found out that I had kidney stones and back inflammation. I was given some pills and patches for my back, but was sent back to Alligator, Alcatraz that same day. Then I asked for the pills and patches, and they were not given to me. I had to ask the other people and myself if they could help me be lifted up and walk to the toilet so I could go to the bathroom. I asked for a walker, but I was told I couldn't have one. I urinated on myself several times because I was embarrassed to always be asking others for help, and I felt humiliated. When I was at Alligator, Alcatraz, somebody died. I heard a lot of screaming, but there's no way to know what actually happened to the person because we're not registered in ICE's system. That's also a really big deal. So when people are abducted, they're usually supposed to be given A numbers, and the A number is how you get tracked through ICE. So the A number your family has to have to be able to track you because they move you all around. So the fact that they're not being registered, that means they're probably not getting A numbers. That's how people are disappearing. So when you hear about that, where people are disappearing. Marxist Gamer Zero, jails being that bad is by design, so people are afraid of standing up. Yeah, exactly. In jail, a lot of time, it's like we're trying to scare you out of whatever, So they have, let's see, I was taken to the hospital in Kendall. There were 3 guards around me at all time. I was handcuffed the whole time. At one point, my wife, who had no idea where I was being detained, appeared on TV. The guards realized that she was my wife and changed the channel. They laughed at me, and one said, this is what you were looking for when you came to the U.S. There was a man from Venezuela who had digestion problems, so they gave him more time to eat. But one time a guard pushed and hit him for taking too long to eat. The guards are constantly trying to provoke you. They want us to try to prove that we are criminals. And again, just normal people. There was a box outside that was being used to punish people. One time, 2 people in my cell were calling out to the guards, telling them I needed medical attention. 10 guards rushed into the cell and threw them to the ground. They were taken to the box and punished just for trying to help me. Anytime that anyone demanded that our rights be respected, they were punished. They call it the box at the Everglades. It's a box outside exposed to the South Florida sun and humidity and exposed to mosquitoes that's used as punishment. So Amnesty International is saying this is a system of arbitrary detention that lacks transparency and oversight. This is also true from the Obama administration eras and before. What is I arrested for? Assaulting a police officer. I got it reduced to a traffic violation because my mom's really hot. I don't know if you guys know that. My mom's really hot. Like, my mom is hot. So there was this guy who was a lawyer in San Francisco who was, like, obsessed with my mom. And this happened in San Francisco. And my mom is a libertarian, which means she's very, very hard politically to deal with. But she also hates the cops. So that's something we have in common. So when I got arrested, she was like, fuck these people. And she is bisexual, yes. But she's also... She's a lot. You don't want to date my mom. I don't think you want to date my mom. Nobody wants to date my mom. So she's like, I know a lawyer in San Francisco. So she got me this lawyer in San Francisco, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to help you. Like, I'm going to handle it all. Don't worry. So I show up to the courthouse for my date. And remember, I didn't know I had been actually arrested. So I was detained and zip-tied, but with my hands in front of me, and put in a car and taken to the police station. And then I sat in a waiting room for hours. Hours and hours and hours and hours. Filled out some paperwork, and then they let me go. All right, so I was like, I guess I just got a warning. I didn't know. And then I went home, and then like weeks later, got all this paperwork in the mail about my arrest. And I was like, my arrest? What? And I was like, holy shit. So I called my mom because we were on speaking terms. And I was like, I think I just got arrested. Like, just telling her it's like a funny story. And she was like, the fuck? These fuckers. Like, she hates the cops. So she was like, I think I know a cop. Or a judge. Or not a judge. A lawyer in San Francisco. So, because we don't have money. We're not rich people. Sure. It's not like I could afford to like hire a lawyer or something. So she got in contact with this lawyer who I'm confident wanted to sleep with her. And he met me at the courthouse, and we were going in to the thing. But before we went in, he leaned and he looked around the corner at the judge, and he was like, I'm going to see you the judges. And he leans in and he goes, oh, I helped this lady get her job. We're so solid. Don't even worry. And I was like, what? And we went in, and literally my court case was they talked for a little bit. Like they're just like, how are the kids? How's this? How's that? How's that? And then the judge was finally like, okay, let's take a look at what we're looking at here. And she looked through and she's like, okay. She's reading it. And she's like, why don't we just say traffic court? And I was like, traffic? What the fuck? How does that even make sense? And he was literally like, do you want to do traffic court or do you want to go to prison? Pick one. And I was like, I'll do traffic court. And he was like, okay, thank you. Bye. And I didn't even understand what had happened. And it turned out the guy was actually like not just like a normal lawyer. He's like a district attorney or something in San Francisco. And I was like, oh, this is how the justice system works for rich people and poor people if your mom is hot, apparently. So that was I was infuriated, obviously, because I'm like, this is so unfair. But also I feel very, very grateful. I'm going to take it, obviously. That, yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you, hot mom. So going to pull David and ask if your mom is single. Probably. I haven't talked to her in like 5 years. I need to start talking to her again, though. It's been too long. I didn't mean to cut her off like forever. It just got to be a little much. So, yeah. No, it's pretty wild. Yeah, so that was my experience. Rich people and hot people. Yeah. Pretty privileged ones. My mom stays... I mean, there's a lot of stuff about my mom that I really appreciate. But it can be hard. Our relationship can be hard, you know? So... Yeah, oh yeah, I had a court date, not just an arrest and release. I had to do a follow-up thing. I had to go to the courthouse. So, yeah, you know, that was it. Nepo baby Madeline bragging about big lawyer connects yet again. This is the only stuff I got from my mom being hot. One year my mom bought me, for Christmas, a TV, like a nice TV. And I was like, this is too much. Like, what? Like, again, we're not rich people. So I was like, I can't take this TV. Like, are you crazy? And she's like, stop. I want to do something nice. This is kind of shit where I'm like, I respect my mom as an individual out in the world. Like, I respect her. She's like, no, don't worry. I want to do something nice for you. It's so fine. I was like, this is like a really expensive gift. Like, no, I can't take this. And she's like, no, just, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. So whatever, I get the TV home and it doesn't work. So I call my mom and I'm like, hey, it's got something. Do you have like the gift receipt or like where you bought it from? I can take it and get like an exchange. And she's being really, really weird about it. And I'm like, what is going on? What's weird about this? Turns out my mom did not buy me the TV. A man who wanted to sleep with my mom bought her the TV. And she already had a TV. So she re-gifted the TV to me, but tried to take credit for buying it. But that, so some guy who thought my mom was hot gave me a TV, and I had to pay to get it fixed, but it was still a nice TV and it worked for many years after that. No, my mom's a whole nother level. I don't think that, I mean, I live in LA, so I will tell you, when I lived in San Francisco, I was a 10. In San Francisco, I was a 10. I was crushing it. I got pretty privileged in San Francisco for sure. LA, I'm like a 6 here. No pretty privilege in LA. In San Francisco, I definitely got it. Yeah, so definitely a 10 in SF. All right. So we got more people here talking about their absolutely horrific experiences being incarcerated. I had a very fortunate experience being incarcerated. It was not that bad. But again, because they were full, it turns out. And the guy was talking to me, and he's like, what exactly happened? The lawyer explained it to me what was going on. You were a twink, you were a 7, but then you turned 30, and now you're a 2. Twink death. Yeah, it happens. I've been to Oklahoma, have I? Yeah, I've been to Oklahoma. Yeah. All right, so we're talking again, this is kind of the same stuff the ACLU talked about under Obama, access to justice issues, lack of due process. This is ongoing. This person says it's been impossible for us to see our clients. One of our lawyers went there as soon as it opened. She was left waiting outside for hours to see her clients and was later told she would not be able to see them that day. This is ongoing. So ICE's job is to break you. Everything has been a human rights violation. I believe that thoroughly. They're cops. They are cops. And again, our cops, the IDF, they have training crossover. Our cops are hyper militarized. They receive military materials. ICE is an extension of this. This is how cops work in the United States, regardless of what you call them. We've got different types of cops, but they're cops nonetheless. So what else do we have? Delays in processing, overcrowding. All right. So I think that we kind of get the picture of what's going on with Alligator Alcatraz, right? It's cruel and inhumane treatment. It is an extension of policies that were the groundwork for which were laid by the Democratic Party. This is a bipartisan issue. Donald Trump is upping the game. Do you guys think that Democrats are going to close Alligator Alcatraz? Right? I feel like at the end of Donald Trump's term, Democrats are probably going to get elected again. This has been so horrific. People will vote for any old Democrat probably that waltzes in the door. Do you think the next Democrat to get elected is going to close Alligator Alcatraz? They should. Do you think they will? I don't think they will. And the reason I don't think they will is because Barack Obama campaigned on closing Guantanamo Bay. We still have Guantanamo Bay. First time chat, Demetrius K39, hell no. Right? I don't trust that they will. I think we'll still have Alligator Alcatraz 20 years from now. They'll pass reform. They might pass reform. We'll stop hearing about it. That's for sure. It is an invasion of Cuba. Guantanamo Bay is an invasion of Cuba, and we don't talk about that very much. That is totally true, Marxist Gamer Zero. Right? So, they didn't stop putting kids in cages at the border after Trump's first term. Why would they stop now? I'd call. Yep. I'd call. Yep. Speaking of escalating, what's your opinion on people voting for Trump to escalate the system collapse to implement socialism? It feels gross to me. I have not seen people do that, but I'm not really in edgelord spaces. I'm tanky, not edgelord. That's where I fall in organizing spaces. So I've never seen anybody do that. So I think that's not the call I would make, right? I think right now we're in a period of mass education. I don't think it benefits anybody. Here's my thing. I don't want capitalism to get that bad. And I ask people, how bad are you going to wait for it to get before you say it's enough? Because it's enough for me right now. It's bad enough for me. I don't need, don't prove to me it can get worse. I believe you. That's enough. I'm done. Right? So I understand the impulse of being like, how bad do you want it to get? But trying to vote for people who will trying to do an accelerationist model, it's no different than the prolonged, it's just timing. Right? It's not like it's more or less suffering. You're just speed running it. So, and that's not my goal. My goal is not to speed run suffering. My goal is to end suffering. So to me, the better approach is mass educational outreach. And that's what we're trying to do. To let people know you do have other options. Electoralism is hard though. People love electoralism, right? And I will tell you, with organizing, I have found way more of an opportunity to talk to people about politics through electoralism that I do not able when I'm not in it. Hold on just a sec. I have to check this text really fast. Sorry. So yeah, I think that education is the thing we should focus on right now. Acceleration has no ends. Yeah, and that's true too. You can't accelerationism without education is pointless. Right? That's totally pointless. I think we need to buy time also. Oh, Aiden Cooper. Yeah, thank you for focusing on theory. I mean, we haven't done much theory lately, but we should get into it more. Cafe O, I'm not sure accelerationism builds class consciousness properly. I feel like you're more likely to swing back to liberalism with concessions. That's kind of how I feel too. I really feel the same way. I feel like conditions being bad doesn't teach people about socialism, right? It can get us to a point where people feel revolutionary ambition. But, I'm a vanguardist. I believe we need a strong vanguard party in place. We need a large vanguard party in place, large enough to be able to facilitate a transition into a better system in a way that minimizes harm for people. So if we don't have a large enough vanguard built up, speed running, accelerating things to try to get to a state of revolution, that's fruitless, right? That creates more problems for us. And I think that's why so many Marxist-Leninists are opposed to adventurism. We want to do things the right way. We think random individual acts of adventurism don't actually accelerate class consciousness, right? So I think that's kind of the trade-off. So Fork's in bed right now. She's fine. She woke up earlier at like 7:30. I went and got coffee with my best friend. And she woke up and lost it then. So we did the whole morning thing and she's already back in bed. So her schedule's a little off. Yes, you have to gain class consciousness with the conditions to fully understand what's happening. Exactly. So I think that that's important to note. All right. So I'm going to have to jump off soon because I have to do a meeting at 12 and my volunteer work still. But we didn't get through much today. So I think we do just have to, maybe what we can do for our new format is we alternate like a domestic day, a foreign policy day, a theory day. And we just do that. Like we have like certain days set aside for certain things. What do you guys think? Because I don't think it's realistic for us to get through multiple topics. Well, I'm not usually a morning person, but my partner's schedule since they moved in, I've become a morning person. Also, my best friend lives on my property. So she's in my front of me. She's right there. Okay, well, we'll just vibe it out. We don't have to be sad. Okay. Block up topics to specific time slots. Oh, that's a good idea. We could do that. Yeah. I could start to allocate 2.5 hours. And then we could do 30 minutes of intro chat, an hour of domestic, an hour of foreign policy, something like that. Could be good. That could be interesting, maybe. So, I don't know. We'll think about it. Okay, Jamel. We want to raid Jamel? Okay. I'm sorry I keep sending you guys to the wrong person when I try to do Ugopnik. Okay, 50 minutes intro chat. I'm going to come up with a schedule. We're going to come up with a schedule. Okay, we'll raid 80 hours of DOS Capital. We are reading Capital together nonstop. I like that. Separate days for separate topics. Okay, we'll do that. We'll start doing that. Okay, so let's see if I can figure out the raid properly. Yes. And is it, how do I spell it? Somebody tell me exactly how to spell this person's name if you want me to raid them. Right now while I type it. DJMUEL. Okay, we're doing it. All right. Okay. Boop. All right. Bye, everybody.